So this was an interesting story that is brought to us by the Gray Zone Project. This is from Ben Norton, who we've had on the show before. So he's talking about the quote-unquote self-styled Syria experts and some of the backlash that they are coming into in the wake of the events of the last week. So we didn't report on this yesterday. Chris found that very interesting that we didn't report on the fact that Trump had made a big deal about getting Abu Bakr al-Zawahiri, who was the leader of ISIS in Idlib in northwestern Syria. So all it took for the curtain to be pulled back on these self-styled Syria experts was for President Trump to greenlight a Turkish invasion of Syria, and those once, quote, moderate CIA-trained Contras that had long terrorized civilians in Syrian government territory were revealed to be Turkish-backed mercenaries, slaughtering and beheading their way through the Kurdish-majority regions of northeastern Syria. And as the Gray Zone's Max Blumenthal reported, 21 of the 28 former Syrian, quote, rebel factions employed by Turkey's invasion of northern Syria were previously armed or trained by the U.S. Almost as soon as that episode was in the rearview mirror, ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was killed by U.S.-led operation in Idlib, the northwestern Syrian province controlled by Syria's local al-Qaeda affiliate, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. So this is, I think, kind of a prescient and important sentence in this article here. So he says, even as U.S. officials acknowledged that Idlib was home to the largest faction of al-Qaeda fighters since 9/11, supporters of regime change and U.S. government itself fiercely protected the province, upholding it as the last rebel stronghold resisting the government of President Bashar al-Assad. With Baghdadi's killing, they were forced to contend with the fact that they had helped provide a sanctuary to the bloodthirsty ruler of ISIS, while at the same time lying to everyone in doing so.
Oops.
That last part I added at the end. So, but everyone focused on Trump's words, he died like a dog, he died like a coward. But the proverbial elephant in the room continued to go unnoticed or ignored. The U.S. had been using diplomatic leverage as threats of military force to keep Baghdadi's hosts in power. Smearing truth-tellers, only a few political outliers have dared to state the inconvenient truth about Idlib. So this is a pretty detailed account of the events that we've covered, pretty much all of these events over the last 4 or 5 years. We've covered in detail only the ones from the last couple of years, but this has gone on from there's a red line in Syria to are these actual chemical attacks and what is Russia's role in combating terrorist groups and which rebel groups are moderate rebels fighting ISIS, or are they, whose side's on what? What are we doing? Are we fighting ISIS, or are we helping the moderate rebels defeat Assad? And are the moderate rebels aligned with ISIS or not? Or what is happening, and why is Russia there, and whose side are they on? So wait, if we're fighting Assad, then we're also fighting Russia, but if we're fighting Assad, then we're helping the terrorists, but aren't we fighting the terrorists? This is confusing. Wait, no, CIA-backed terrorists are fighting Pentagon-backed terrorists. Wait, what are we doing? Toward the end of the article, he says, the whitewashing of al-Qaeda extended to the opinion pages of the New York Times, where neoliberal columnist Thomas Friedman has urged the U.S. to arm and create a no-fly zone around the moderate rebels in Idlib. We point out that the United States has never created a no-fly zone in a foreign country that did not result in military action, basically a war. I can't really call it a war. We haven't been in a real war since World War II, but it always devolves into what colloquially would be referred to as a war. Moderate rebels and, quote, back off fighting territorial ISIS in Syria. While such thinking may sound absurd, outrageous, and even treasonous to the average American, Friedman's thinking underscores the prevalent mindset amongst policymakers in Washington. Among them was a former CIA director, David Petraeus, who was the driving force behind President Obama's 2012 decision to enact a multi-billion-dollar covert CIA train and equip program. In fact, Petraeus was shopping the plan as late as 2015 for the U.S. to directly arm al-Qaeda fighters. So this is an extension, a continuation of the United States' strategy there, but again, Ben Norton is pointing out a really excellent truth that these fact checkers, right, the Syria truth tellers, are put in a really, really, really tough spot of being like, yeah, we got that guy that was totally not in the city that we were saying was where all the moderate rebels were this whole time. He definitely was hiding there. They never found him. It was crazy secret.
You know,
it's crazy stuff, guys.
You know, it just goes again, shows you why we got to get out of these foreign wars, why Tulsi Gabbard her foreign policy is correct, and again, why we really need to get money out of politics and get rid of this military-industrial complex that's taking away so many of our resources. Think about how many more terrorists we are creating with every time a drone drops a bomb, or any time, you know, we actually just turn a blind eye to genocide that's happening. Like, for example, what's happening in Yemen right now. I mean, this is madness. And the people that are paying for this is you guys, the American taxpayer. We're the ones that are stuck with this financial burden. And you really think we want to go on with this? I mean, this is madness. This is stupidity. And we have to get out of these foreign wars. Otherwise, all these actions right now will come back to haunt us tenfold.
So I'm just going to last point on this. And I think you had it at the beginning where it's basically, oh, you mean the town that we control, that we said these people are out of the people. This is beyond self-imposed. This is a self-created situation. If people want, there's a great game that I remember playing that I got showed by one of my teachers in high school that I think illustrates the point Kit was bringing up. It's called 912. And the entire point of the game is you're the U.S. government and you have to blow up terrorists, but every time you blow a terrorist up, you destroy someone's house, and that converts more people into terrorism. At the same time, the U.S. trains terrorists. So the U.S. is doing both sides of it. It is taking people that are terrorists and saying, let's give you professional training on how to fight an empire, and then they become the target eventually, and then they have to be destroyed. And in so destroying them, you create more people that we then hire to get the original people we're fighting until they're gone. Then you have this new group. It's as if this is a strategy that is utilized for no other reason than to perpetuate a military-industrial complex and the necessity to use $100,000 munitions over and over and over and over and over again with each other. And we are getting to a point where we're running out of money and the empire's collapsing.